Now today I tried to use this time efficiently since I only have a small part of the day. I thought one of the things we'd do for the 48,000 mile service, the chain and oil change and a filter. And rather than try to sneak in a very short ride, I'd rather get the oil filter done today and be ready for another 4,000 miles of fun. Now one of my golden rules is to try to never do maintenance on bikes on days I can ride, because the days we can ride are limited and we have a long winter here to do plenty of maintenance. But if a bike like this comes due for an oil change in the middle of the summer, yeah, obviously we're going to do it. And that's what happened here. So it is supposed to rain later today, among other things, and Karen has some stuff she wants to do, but I can squeeze in an oil change early in the morning and I'll be all set to go tomorrow for a full day ride. So step one before it even starts raining is to get the bike warm up outside, bring it up to operating temperature, and then dump the oil. So while the bike's coming up to operating temperature, I see we're already losing the day. The clouds are starting to roll in, so this looks like it'll be a real efficient use of the day. So next step, the 17mm wrench out and dump the oil. Now we also got a brand new oil filter to put on. Usually I would like to do, I try to change the filter every time, even though you don't have to. Of course, on these older bikes, who knows what goes wrong. It's just such cheap insurance to add a new filter to every oil change. And also then I'm on the second page of logging things in here. I have it all logged in so I can keep track of the maintenance on the bikes. Here's one thing handy, these little lights from Harbor Freight. Whenever I'm working underneath the bike, because it just allows me to look up and see. Now in this place, I think it was last winter, we took the drain plug off, made a new gasket for it. And so that should be nice and clean. There should be no, there should be no extra cleanup there. We'll just dump the oil. Now I had totally forgotten it was a 21mm wrench. When you don't do this every day. And you're old. It's a bad combination. Anyway, the trick now is to let all the oil drain out. While that's draining, I'll pull the filter cover off. Now on these old GSs, the oil filter is behind what right now are 4 very hot exhaust pipes. So getting a 10mm wrench with an extension there, and then what I do, I just let everything drop into the oil pan and fish around for it later. When you try to get it out without rubber gloves or without some protection for your hands, you're almost guaranteed get burned. Now what can make this just a little bit easier, I have this long extension that's from Harbor Freight, of course. Isn't everything available from Harbor Freight? And now the trick is, because we are really in, those pipes are really super hot right now. So I want to get these nuts loosened up with the extension. Now, I've really always been fussy about cleaning inside. In fact, when we had the oil pan off the bike, I was real fussy about cleaning inside there too. I want to make sure the minimum amount of anything that could contaminate the oil is in there. We got the new gasket here. And what's good about K&N, they give you an extra gasket. I don't know why, I guess they fit 2 different bikes. If you have trouble getting this gasket to stick, one of the tricks is just put some wheel bearing grease in there and squishy it down in. I don't seem to have that problem. I don't know why, but I've heard other people with GSs have that. And of course the new filter, I just think that's the cheapest insurance you can buy. You have these old bikes, hard to get parts for them. When you do, they're 40 years old, 35 years old. Why not take care of what you already have? In this case, what we already have is a pretty good running GS. I don't want to deteriorate it for the cost of an oil filter. Okay, I know this is still red hot. but I wanted to get the filter in. And this always seems like a little bit tenacious to get this on, but what I try to do is get one nut. It doesn't matter which one either. While I still have the pan underneath it, because I'll probably drop half of the stuff into the oil. Get that pressed down. Get one nut hand tight. Now it's in place. Now getting the rest of them just hand tight is a relatively easy job. And then of course when I tighten them up, that's a whole nother adventure sometimes when they're hot, and it's hot right now. But what I'm going to do is right now, once I get this cover in place, I'm just going to let the bike cool off, go have a cup of coffee. I'll toast you, Scott, and thank you for sharing those pictures with us. Pretty cool. We don't have those Kansas sunsets here in this part of the world. This one, that's not going to work the way I want it to. Let's see if we get this one on. This is actually what I'm doing right now. This is the only part of the job that's kind of annoying. I guess the Suzuki engineers had smaller hands than I have. But anyway, now the whole adventure here is going to be set the wrench, get the long extension on, like a star pattern, get them all hand tight and torque them up little by little by little, a crossing pattern, just like you would put the head on an engine. The long extension really does make it a little bit easier. Of course, one of the things you could always do if time is not of the essence, just let the engine cool off before you put this cover back in. It saves some burning of your fingers. There's times I've tried to do this and gotten all burned up and everything, but now I'm a lot smarter. Now, some people don't know this, but a lot of older bikes, including the GS, have maybe a lot of motorcycles, period, have a magnet in the drain plug. That magnet, and you think it's clean, like I've wiped this with a paper towel, but to really be safe, and I know a lot of people are thinking, wow, that's overkill, but I love overkill. I love when you can get that last little bit of grit or dirt, and obviously it's something metallic, it's iron, and when you can get that last little bit out, I think you've added some life to the engine that normally you wouldn't have. But that's on a GS, that's one of the critical things. Now, next step is to put the drain plug in, but the first thing is I stand the bike up straight. See, it's on an angle here, and what happens, there'll always be just maybe a shot glass more of oil that'll come out, and I'll hold it straight up and down. Again, the idea is to get all this old oil out, make room for the new oil. That's another good tip too, by the way. And as many times as I've thought, well, every little, you do all these little steps, cleaning this and checking that and replacing the filter. But in the end, we have a bike with 48,000 miles that runs real well still. After how many years? 35? I don't even know. A long time. 37 years. It still runs good. And there's a chance. I know a lot of people that have, Tim for instance, had over 80,000 on his GS and it was running fine. And other people I don't know that say you can go 100,000 miles. But the biggest thing with these engines is they are nice low-end torque engines. You don't have to rev them high to go past somebody on a highway or whatever. And they are bulletproof. That's probably the right word. The guys that drag race and want to make giant amounts of horsepower and everything, they love these engines. And that's why it's hard to get one in good shape at this age. They've all been run out, Mile. That's why I'm taking care of this guy. I did search for a while to get a replacement engine for the other bike, and it was any one that was available was a dragster engine or something. And these engines are so nice and smooth and so torquey, and you almost don't have to shift. And that's why, to me, it's worth spending the extra time, the extra money, the extra energy to keep them that way. I want to have this bike, I know it's not that long far away, but I want to have this bike on the day I die. That's my goal. Yeah, because it seems like every time I do an oil change, there's always some oil under the bike. I put this rubber mat upside down, and you can see there's always something dripping and drooling and stuff. It just protects my very expensive rug that I got from Luciano. This is a I think it came right from a casino in Rome, this rug. And but hey, having a rug, it seems like that would be funny. Yeah, no, it's not. In fact, my whole garage is carpeted, at least one layer, and where I do the work, 2 and 3 layers, something, in this case, maybe more. Just because it's a lot more comfortable than crawling around on concrete. All right, so the next step is to put the fresh oil in. Now, a couple of things that you really don't want to do. We know all the oil is out of the bike. So I know roughly it's going to be over 3 quarts and less than 4 quarts. So what I'm going to try to do is put 3 quarts in and then check it, run it a little bit, check it, run, because I don't want to overfill it. Nothing good happens when you overfill these. I'd like it to be right in the middle, and since this bike doesn't burn any oil, now if the bike did burn oil, I'd go to the top of that, the 2 little marks. But when it's a good, reliable, and it doesn't burn oil, I like to be right in the middle. When you overfill a bike, one of the things that happens, the clutch drags. That's always one of the problems. And when you go to put it in gear, it's like clonk, and that can't be good. And all you're doing is filling up that little magnet in there with little metal chips. One more final run just to make sure I'm in the middle of that sight glass, and we'll be good to go. Now, to end this video with one true, embarrassingly funny story. In my wayward youth, I was always trying to save money because I had old motorcycles and they needed a lot of maintenance, and well, it's a long story. But anyway, I decided one day I was going to put ordinary car oil, because it was about $1 a quart cheaper at the time, and I put it in this motorcycle, and I don't think it went 100 miles, and it had a slipping clutch, and the money I saved, not worth. I had to flush the oil out. Oh my God, then I was always worried it's going to slip again. And what you do, there's several choices you have when that happens. You can flush it with cheap oil 5 times, 10 times. I've heard of other people that pull a clutch apart and sand the clutch plates and whatever. But there's a really easy way to avoid the whole thing. Put the oil that the bike manufacturer, if they say 1040, like on an R1, it specifically says 1040, not chemical oil. Use that oil. If a bike says chemical oil, use chemical oil. The oil is usually relating to the clearances in the motor. Modern cars have very tight clearances, so they need 5-weight oil and stuff. These old bikes don't have tight clearances, believe me. Believe me, they need the oil they recommend, 1040, and motorcycle oil. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this day. What can I say? It's ordinary maintenance. You don't do it, you pay later down the road. If you do it, you can take some satisfaction that, like me, you may have a GS or any motorcycle that you really enjoy riding, and it'll last a long time. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.